Welcome to Millennium Counseling Center's podcast, where each week we go in depth into all things mental health, addiction recovery, and being our healthiest and happiest self. Enjoy. Hey, I am Oren Matteson, one of the owners at Millennium Counseling. And today we're joined by Thomas, one of our amazing therapists who we brought on a few years ago to help with student athletes and kind of emerging adults. But more recently, Thomas and I have been talking about working with men, and specifically men who struggle with sexual compulsive issues, addiction issues. And so just want to have Thomas on and let you guys meet Thomas. And I'm just curious, Thomas, what has it been like to grow your expertise, kind of begin to take on a new population of people that you're working with?
So far, the transition has been exciting, but nerve-wracking as well. I
Mhm.
think in a lot of ways, being able to work with primarily men has been something I've always wanted to do when it comes to the therapy I do. And in so many ways, I feel like athletic therapy has allowed me to do that. But in this way, I think it's a much more vulnerable space where, men are really able to talk about some of the hardest situations they go through in their life and how they want to, work on themselves in the most vulnerable way. And I believe just having that space to speak to another man at this vulnerable level is something that you don't get very often in today's world. So being able to create that space, being able to facilitate conversations in such a vulnerable way, in such an honest way, is something that I think has been the exciting part of the journey. And seeing people be comfortable talking about very hard, difficult situations in their life, and find solace in just communicating about it has been an eye-opening experience for me. And I'm very grateful to start this journey.
Cool.
And
I can relate. I mean, I did my first training for CSAT when I was 30 years old, and I had a lot of experience before that working with a different population and being excited but anxious, right? Really just not knowing whether my skill set would transfer over, how I'd be received by clients, with kind of starting a new specialty. But yeah, so I can really relate to what you're talking about. And yeah, now having been doing it for a while, like it's hard for men to sit down and talk about what's really going on in their life. It doesn't even have to be about relationships or sex, right? But just to sit down and be honest with somebody else about hard things. And so, I've loved that part about being in this role. And I'm excited to kind of help kind of mentor and see how you're kind of coming up through something I did a while back and seeing what this can mean for you and then how much help you can provide to the community here for this very thing. So
I'm very excited too. Yeah.
awesome. So you got a couple clients in this space. So what did you think would happen? What is getting you by surprise? Like what's that experience been like just starting?
I think I was very nervous starting, as I said before, just being this type of space for men is something that I've cared about for so long. So, coming in very prepared, being very knowledgeable about the topics that we're discussing, their client's background, all of these things were some things that I was getting very nervous about going into it, knowing all the details, trying to make sure I'm tailoring out their treatment plan according to how they want to, you know, have sessions and all of that. But I've come to realize that similarly to a lot of different therapies, it's all about creating that space, right? And creating a space where people can feel very safe to talk about what it is they're going through. And, when it comes to sexual addictions, you know, there are so many things that hold specifically men back from having to speak on it. And, when they have families, when they have different types of pressures on their shoulders, to carry and to deal with while also managing, some of the sexual addiction aspects, I've come to realize and empathize with my clients on a deeper level and see how much they're carrying, understand, how they have been maneuvering and how much is involved in just allowing them to feel, you know, like anything can be said in a session. the value of that, I think, has been the biggest factor when it comes to the sessions I've had with my clients. And allowing the client to feel space on that level has allowed, my therapy sessions to be more advanced, be more almost, see progress with the clients on that level. Because I think from where I started with and the idea of how I wanted to be very knowledgeable, I wanted to know every aspect of sexual addiction has been less of a priority, but more focusing in on the client, their experience, their vision and what they want for themselves, and keeping them on track with those goals has allowed them to progress the way they wanted to. So just kind of realizing that has made this such an eye-opening experience again. And it's been a very enjoyable process knowing that you can support men on this level, once again, in such a vulnerable space.
Yeah, totally. And I'm so glad that you got to that place so quick, because I think we can kind of get into that mindset that someone's coming to us to like fix, right? And so now we have to know all the answers, we have to know all the protocols, and obviously having a background and an educational kind of component to it to like know how to treat and know how to support is really important in this process. But at the end of the day, it's more of how deep can we go with somebody or allow somebody to go into their truth, their pain, whatever it may be. And that's really where the value for me has been as well, right? And it's corollary, right? When someone's able to do that work, you really begin to see a lot of the changes in the behavior and the life beginning to really make dramatic improvements.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that was another aspect I thought, would be the primary objective is getting them through it, you know, getting them to this place where they wouldn't have to relapse or be sober. But along the way, you realize there's so many aspects that you haven't understood about where this came from and why it all started in the first place. So, taking time to really understand the background about where this all began, how it all became what it was for them in terms of their addiction has been, I think, part of like the healing process for them because they themselves don't always think about that aspect of it on a deeper level. They always think about what it is, the shame that comes with it, the guilt that comes with, having such an addiction in their lives and how it affects the people around them, where they don't have that same level of empathy for themselves that we could show them when it comes to helping themselves. And I think allowing them to feel empathetic to their own struggles, understanding where it all stemmed from, has just allowed them to kind of progress in a way in which, they feel very positive about getting better versus forcing themselves to get better for this reason or that reason. It's something that they want to do, they want to do very organically.
Yeah. And I'm kind of excited about for you that you realize so quickly that what brings someone in is really not what you end up working on, right? What brings somebody in is a behavior, a flawed coping mechanism that's been in their secret life of how they've coped with all their pain and their challenges. But then really quickly, you kind of get to the realness about what's going on with them and really getting to help support them in an authentic way. And, I think it's amazing that you got to that awareness so quickly. And one of the reasons why I'm so happy that you're, you know, bringing on these clients and helping guys going through this, because I think you really get it. And, I'm just really honored and thankful that we get to work together and help guys figure out this important stuff.
Yeah, I think just having you as a support through it all has also made me just feel a little more confident each and every week about taking it on, Oren. So I can't thank you enough as well for the support you've given me thus far.
Appreciate it.